The last project for the first week of this class is the isolation of caffeine from tea. There are several different ways that caffeine is isolated and removed from things like tea and coffee. For coffee, in order to go from caffeinated to decaffeinated beans, you can either use an organic solvent, methylene chloride or dichloromethane is one of the common solvents used for that. It removes the caffeine without removing many of the other organic flavor and odor compounds contained within the bean. You can also use water to remove the caffeine, but it is a far less efficient process, even though it is much more green because it does not use an organic solvent. The third way is more expensive, but also very efficient. It uses what we would call supercritical CO2. If you put carbon dioxide under pressure, it can actually turn it into a liquid. Typically, carbon dioxide, those of you that may have used dry ice before, goes directly from a solid to a gas in the process of sublimation, but under pressure, the liquid CO2 can remove the caffeine, leave everything else untouched. You get a little pellet of caffeine removed from the beans or grounds that you are extracting, and you don't have to worry about the waste of an organic material. We're going to be using tea because we don't have to worry about grinding up the coffee beans. So the normal process is to quite literally make tea. You add in some base to deal with some of the other materials that are present. And then you do an extraction, and we will be using methylene chloride to do the extraction of caffeine. And then you isolate the crude caffeine and do the sublimation of caffeine. So along with carbon dioxide, caffeine also sublimes. And we use that sublimation to purify the caffeine. It is not a straightforward process. You have to use vacuum via an aspirator in order to encourage that sublimation. And then you need cold water and a cold finger in order to actually get that sublimed caffeine to deposit. So deposition is the opposite of the process of sublimation. So you can end up getting a crude caffeine, which can be anything from brown to orange to yellow. And after sublimation, you get a much more clear crystal. So you can do melting point analysis. Melting point is a very common analysis. Like for the crystallization lab, you get melting point data, and you can determine purity from that. So this is, for this first week, we are focusing on, or we have focused on, a lot of basic techniques in the organic chemistry lab for separation, analysis, and purification. And so this is all prep work for going into a variety of synthetic experiments. We're actually going to make products that we are going to analyze.